everyone, and welcome back to Faith in Flour. If you're new here, my name is Robin. Today's video is all about batch cooking and the method from this cookbook, Cook Once, Eat All Week. If you have been looking for an easy way to get healthy meals on the table during a busy week, then this video is for you. This week, I followed all the instructions and recipes from week 9 using the basic ingredients: baked chicken breast, kale, and corn. If you're not familiar with this cookbook, I go into a little more detail in my previous video in this series, so I will have that video linked in the cards above and in the description box below. Basically, she gives you the weekly ingredient list, all of the instructions for prep day, and of course the recipes to prepare them each night. And she also includes some bonus dinner options, so if you'd like to prepare up to 5 meals a week, you can do that too. This method is so easy and is so worth your time, and I have to say that week number 9 has been our favorite so far. Everything was absolutely delicious, and it was also the easiest week so far. I'm going to show you everything I did for prep day and then also how I prepared these 3 delicious meals for my family this week. Meal prep starts with preparing the chicken because that's the ingredient that's going to take the longest. As she suggested, I lined a rimmed baking sheet with some parchment paper, and I was so grateful that I did this because it really helps with cleanup later and keeps the chicken from sticking without having to add a lot of extra oil. Then I sprayed the chicken with some olive oil spray. This one I get from Trader Joe's. And then she suggests that you season it with salt and pepper, but I went for a little bit more flavor with this salt lick chicken seasoning. I think this is a regional thing. You might not be able to find it in your area, but it basically is just a blend of sort of everyday spices. In addition to the salt and pepper, there's some garlic in there, and I think a little lemon peel, but it kicks up the flavor just a little bit. So whatever your favorite seasoning is, this would be a great time to add it. And then the chicken just takes 40 minutes in a 375-degree oven. While the chicken is in the oven, you'll have time to prepare almost all of the other ingredients for this week, starting with the kale. I'm just removing the stems and then I'm going to chop one bunch. I prefer to wash mine after I've chopped it, so when I'm finished chopping it, I just put it into my salad spinner, give it a good rinse and spin, and then I will store it for use later in the week. Once the kale was clean and spun dry, I lined this 8-cup glass dish with a paper towel to store the kale for this particular recipe. I needed a larger container than the mason jars that I used in my last video for some of the ingredients this week. So these I have in my Amazon store if you guys are looking for some. They have really nice tight-fitting lids, and I really like storing our food in glass as opposed to plastic. Her instructions called for the second bunch of kale to be cut in strips, so I did that, washed it, spun it dry, and then lined 2 mason jars with a paper towel and put the amounts of kale that she specified into each of those for the recipes this week as well. Cassie Joy, the author of this cookbook, has really thought out all of the prep day instructions, so I definitely suggest that you do them in the order that she has them because it makes total sense. And so the next thing to do is to prep and cook the confetti casserole veggies. So it's basically just chopping up some red bell pepper, an onion, adding a little garlic, and sauteing it with some oil. And you will store this in an airtight container too to use in the casserole later in the week. When the chicken was ready, I just pulled it out of the oven and set it aside to cool a little bit so that I can cut it up later. And in the meantime, I will just finish up with the prep instructions. Again, I made it easy on myself this week because I did not use fresh corn. I used canned. You can also use frozen. And I used pre-prepared bacon crumbles instead of making my own. So that cut down a little bit on the prep time. All that was left to prepare were 2 dressings, and the first one is chipotle lime dressing, and I didn't have chipotle, so I substituted some chili powder and it still came out great. I'm storing it in a mason jar, and I labeled the lid so that I can grab it quickly and I'll know which night to use it. Last thing on prep day to make is the Green Goddess dressing. It calls for fresh parsley, chives, and tarragon. Just add that to your blender along with some mayonnaise, some sour cream, or I substituted Greek yogurt, some lemon juice, and you will have the most divine dressing. By that time, the chicken was cool enough to handle. I cut it into bite-sized pieces to store in 3 separate containers for the different recipes this week. I labeled everything clearly using a dry erase marker on top of the plastic lids for the mason jars and just some masking tape for the other containers. That way it will be super easy on the evenings where I'm preparing each meal to know which ingredients to grab. I always get a lot of questions about my jars, lids, and containers, so I will have those in addition to the Cook Once, Eat All Week cookbook in my Amazon store, and the link for that you can find in the description box. Now my refrigerator is stocked and ready for me to get those 3 meals on the table in a hurry this week. And in case you're curious, these are all of the dishes that I'll need to clean after the prep today. Typically, I use this many things just preparing 1 meal, and I've got 3 ready to go for the week. The prep time for this Green Goddess salad is only 10 minutes or less, I would say. You just combine the dressing that you made along with the kale and toss it until it's very thoroughly coated. I did add just a splash of some apple cider vinegar because I felt like it needed just a little bit of acidity, but that is the only adjustment that I made this entire week. This truly was an amazing week of really good recipes. I actually thought that the tarragon in the dressing might be a little strong, but my family loved it and so did I. After that, it just takes a couple of minutes to assemble the salad. The picture in the cookbook presented it as sort of Cobb salad style arranging, and so I took that as my guide and then just drizzled the remaining dressing over top, and this was the perfect summer meal. As I said, my family loved it, and I know that just based on this recipe alone, we are going to be making week number 9 several times this season. The prep time for this Mexican chicken and corn street tacos recipe is just 5 minutes and the cook time 14. First, make the kale slaw by combining the kale and the chipotle lime dressing. This will give it time to do some marinating while you prepare the other ingredients. I juiced 1 lime to add to the filling and the other one I cut into wedges to serve. For the filling, you're just going to saute in some butter, the chicken, corn, lime juice, and the seasonings. Usually to warm corn tortillas, I like to do it over the open flame on my gas stove, but I decided to give her method a try and it was very easy and a little bit more foolproof. It was fun to watch them sort of puff up, and you know you have it perfect when you have nice charred marks on there. This gives so much flavor to the tortillas. I definitely recommend not skipping this step. Once the filling has had a chance to warm up, you're ready to assemble your tacos. This was delicious and really different, even though it used the same ingredients. My family loved it, and it was enough for the guys to have seconds if they wanted. Perfect for our family of 4 with 3 grown men. The confetti chicken casserole calls for a prep time of 5 minutes and cook time of 30. Assembling everything was so easy, and the rest of the time was spent with the casserole in the oven, leaving you free to do dishes or anything else that you like. In a large bowl, you just stir together the onion and bell pepper mixture, corn, kale, chicken, mayonnaise, salt, and pepper until well combined. And a large bowl is important. I thought I was going to make it. I was in denial, but once I started to add the kale, I realized that everything wasn't going to fit and I needed to switch to a larger bowl. So keep that in mind. You'll need something large enough so that you can mix it well. It makes quite a lot. Then you just add it to your casserole dish, top with some cheese and bacon bits, and it's ready to pop in the oven. With this recipe, I was 3 for 3, another win. My family loved it. In fact, I think it would be hard to say which one we liked the most this week. I know that kale might deter some people, but if you've never tried it, I think this is a great way to give it a try. It is disguised with a lot of flavor. It gives a wonderful texture. Kale is one of the most nutritiously dense vegetables you can find, and if you chop it very, very fine in these recipes, I think a lot of kids might not even notice that they're eating it. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some inspiration for giving this batch cooking method a try. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and if you're new, I want to invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you join our Faith and Flour community. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me today. I look forward to talking with you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful week.